Banderacon's Captain Log's infamous Part 2. Now, I know you chuckle fucks have been waiting with bated breath for this. I cannot produce enough jizz to cream all over how much I love Infamous 2. I can't remember the time space gap between the first and the second. All I knew is that I was hungry for more after finishing the first one, and I think there was the brief worry that it was going to be stuck in some kind of game hell where it was liked enough that it got a following, but not enough that it got a sequel. And then Cole McGrath exploded onto scene for a just a fantastic sequel. Again, it has one of probably the most perfect deliveries in that the plot thread from the first game that this I think it was called the Beast was approaching, this creature that was so terrifying that your future self went back in time to give you the emotional trauma you needed to beat the damn thing in the past slash future slash past. That actually had a payoff, and then you start the game with this really it's fairly basic, but it was still like a good little boss battle to kick off with. You get dumped in the ocean, which is usually a KO for you, and you end up, I think, in Louisiana. Now, from the get-go, the game wins at, like, it's a complete upgrade all around, graphically, texturally, the soundtrack. If you ever get the time, listen to, I think it was the blue and the red soundtrack for Infamous 2. It's incredible. Like, you've got your more modern type stuff. You've got definitely some twangy sort of Bayou Louisiana-esque tracks in there. Anyway, fucking getting aside from myself. It's perfect, in my opinion. You have this kind of semi-redemption arc from the side character who was originally Cole McGrath's best friend and betrayed him at the end of the first game and is trying to earn back his trust and respect. That is an active and heavy element in it. He is basically trying to figure out what's going on, how to stop the beast, which comes to a really good... in my opinion, the loop closes fairly well. We'll also go back into that. This layout of the city feels kind of natural and organic, and it doesn't feel like your generic New York that the first one did. And I'm not knocking the first game's one, I'm just saying that it adapted to a change in the venue and setting very gracefully, and as a result had a lot more flavor for it. Like, you don't often explore these Southern American, almost favela-esque locations in games that often with that much depth. You had some relatively lazy stereotyping in terms of, like, you had, as I remember it, like your southern good old boy type anti-mutant hate monger. But you know what? We're playing a game where a dude shoots lightning out of his fingertips, and it's basically a few steps away from the Caped Crusader. So let's just give it a break. The binary morality choices were pretty standard, but still quite fun. You got some extra sub powers from either picking one of two affiliations. I think one was fire and ice. The CIA agent, who I remember, like CIA, whatever big letter agencies, she comes to be your like positive moral aspect, and there's a native. I can't remember what the name for it was. I'm going to say mutant or awakened, something like that. She is a native lady who's a bit cracked up, but that comes to actually a fabulous head at the end. In terms of the gameplay, not really a lot has changed. The abilities are still more or less the same. I remember the hand-to-hand element getting a bit of a tune-up because now your character's wielding basically a gigantic electric tuning fork, and that was it was welcome. You had your standard kind of leveling up mechanic. You had the ability to take people alive, and again, your morality was basically dependent on the choices you made and how much collateral damage you were willing to accommodate for. I do remember the first time you called down the full-on lightning, the sort of special move where you just call down a full-on thunderstorm in the game was perfectly placed, because if memory serves, you did that on confronting one of the kind of main bosses slash sub-bosses of the area, and you get to do it for an unlimited amount during that encounter. Kind of like a tutorial level then, I guess. Anyway, story-wise, the beast is real. That he kicks your ass. He spends most of his time tear-assing his way down from where he beat you to where you are. And that actually shows up in the pause menu, as I remember it, because you can actually see the beast leaving a smouldering trail across the map, heading north to southwest where you are. And you come across somebody who you thought was dead. A character who was a part of another letter agency in the first game, who tries to help you out and piece together whatever's going. He actually survived his demise in the game at the hands of the Ray Sphere, which is the thing that triggered the incident in the first game and gave you your powers and fucked up the country as a whole, or at least the area. He is the Beast, and he tells you that this plague, or illness, which was only hinted at vaguely in the first game, and it was kind of, almost a throwaway kind of thing, is very real. And it's a very real problem. Now, he tasks you the option. You can save some people at the cost of everyone else, because those people are the ones who have powers, and you can basically cause a mini Ray Sphere detonation. You end up given the moral choice to kill yourself using the Ray Sphere to basically deal with every person who has the special powers but save everyone else, or save yourself and kind of lead like a mutant elite. And the fun moment is that during this time, the CIA agent who's been urging you to do all the decent moral things cracks, and it's like, shit, I don't want to die. So she throws in her lot with the Beast, whereas the chick who's basically been encouraging you to burn everything and dance around the ashes kind of goes the other way. Doesn't make her what would be defined as a conventionally good moral choice, but it's more like a fuck you, you're not killing everyone I know kind of choice, and then suicide bombs him straight in the face, which is pretty ballsy. I remember the last mission where you're kind of running across a kind of flotilla of tugboats towards the thing to get to the Ray Sphere is really quite climactic. Like, the sky is this kind of dying red color, and then you go through a fairly basic, not QT, but holding buttons to activate the thing, and then you get an ending, and it's told from the perspective of your friend. And they hinted at a third game, which was, as I remember it, the Second Son game, which I didn't play, but I did see my friend played it. It seemed like it was good enough, and it had actually really good dialogue. There was this whole feature that the main character had a brother, and they had this really quite good back and forth, and it played through on the missions. Infamous Second Son, that was the name of it. I just didn't care for it. I think my heart went with the game, and it died with Cole McGrath. Now, I know there was an expansion where you got to play as it was like a whole vampire side plot, and I thought that was very cool and very cheeky, though I didn't actually play it. But yeah, no, the series died at number 2 for me, and it had the stones to pull the trigger and just end the game and end the series there, and I'm happy with that. You'll hear me say this a million times if this channel goes anywhere. The best stories have an ending. Anything that goes on for too long eventually loses momentum, the threads become too long, it loses its tightness. It's like, in my opinion, the only season of True Detective, the first season. It has an ending, and that's why it's amazing. Anyway, that's it for Infamous. I'm not doing the third or any other sides. Peace out. Also, call to action, right? Go and call a family member who you haven't spoke to in a while, who you're still on good terms with, but you just haven't got round to. Go and do that right now. Cheers, bye.